Good evening, everybody, and welcome you all to this evening of the next Brainchild Trust session. And I now hand over to Anagar to introduce our speaker and take the session forward.
Thank you.
Anagar, we cannot hear you.
Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yes, Ma, you're audible. Please carry on.
Okay, thank you. The Brainchild Trust was established in 2018 with the aim of helping children who are affected by neurological disorders and to support their families. The focus is on educating the public about current issues affecting their health and also on providing unbiased information in the regional Indian languages. So today, I am Anagha taking this wonderful opportunity to welcome each one of you on behalf of our organization team. A famous shloka from Bhagavad Gita, Karmane Vadika Raste, Mafaleshu Kadachana, Makar Mapala Hetur Buhu, Mate Sankocha Karmani, meaning you have every right to work without expecting rewards. Let the focus be off the rewards, the results, and never stop working. As we inculcate the value, we all are set for another yet remarkable event. I take this opportunity to welcome our speaker today, Geeta Dalal. Geeta Dalal is a psychologist, special educator, and dyslexia therapist who has changed the lives of innumerable children and their families through her years of work. Her list of academic achievements is long and impressive. Masters in clinical and industrial psychology, B.Ed in special education, dyslexia therapist, and a certified arts-based therapist. But what is truly remarkable is her patience and enthusiasm to constantly engage with students, guide teachers, counsel parents, while never slacking in their pursuit of knowledge. She is an internal brain gym, double doodle, and movement-based learning instructor, a drum circle facilitator, and a clinical musician. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you very much.
I also welcome all the motivated audience present here today for the event. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Miss Anaga, Miss Gauri, and Miss Apurva for handling this and inviting me on your platform. And a very good evening to all the viewers who have joined us. Like she said, motivated people who want to gain something. It will be nice if the cameras are on because it really doesn't feel good to look at those black patches on the screen. So, am I audible enough? Voice, sound, and all is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, perfect. So, the topic for today is dyslexia decoded, and how what is the process for diagnosis and how the management process for dyslexia works. So, it's a very interesting topic, very dear to my heart, and I hope I will do good justice to this. So, dyslexia is not a disease to have. And it is, since it is not a disease, it is not something to be cured of, but it is a way of thinking and a separate way of learning. Often it is a gifted mind that is waiting to be found and taught. So, this clearly mentions that this is not a disease. So, nobody is to be shunned. Okay. This does not, it cannot be seen on the surface, it cannot be seen on the body. It is a way of thinking and learning. Since it is not a disease, there are no pills that one can have, no syrups that one can consume and say that dyslexia was there and it's gone. So it's manageable, and the ways to manage it is what is important. Please feel free to stop me whenever you wish to ask a question. I'm sure Anaga is going to help us out with that. Okay.
Definitely.
Imagine, yeah, imagine the shame of an 8-year-old child. An 8-year-old means grade 2, 3, who cannot read at the same pace as the peers are reading. Okay. The child is trying, but is not able to do it. Put yourself in the shoes of that 8-year-old and see what you feel. Imagine the shock of a 15 or 16-year-old student who is unable to get through high school exams. The child is trying once again, racking their brains, putting in all the efforts and the number of hours, and still not able to do it. Are the slides changing for you?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Okay. Now imagine the dilemma of the parents who keep on trying to teach the child. The child answers very well at home. Orally, everything is good, but he's unable to read the text well when he is in school and at home. The very fact that he's able to answer things well orally shows us that he is having cognitive skills to understand. And yet, he is not able to read well, neither at school nor at home. Now, imagine the plight of a child who is trying to read and reads the word God as dog, the numbers 69 as 96, the words mug as gum. And what happens then? When a child reads like this, all the classmates are laughing and the teachers are yelling at the child if the child is not understood. Now, if you pay attention to the words again, God is read as dog, 69 is read as 96, mug is read as gum. These are some examples that I'm giving you, okay? So, what is a specific learning difficulty? These are the things that are specific to one particular child, and they are specific to that child. So, every child will not have all the difficulties. And the general term, the DSM 5, that is Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, gives to these kind of disabilities, which are not visible, they are internal, is they refer to a heterogeneous group of disorders that are manifested by significant difficulties in the acquisition, that is the process of learning, and the use in listening, speaking, reading, writing, reasoning, or mathematical abilities. Now, if we think about it, every student needs all of these abilities. They need listening skills, speaking skills, reading skills, writing skills, reasoning skills, and mathematical skills. So, when there is a difficulty in any one of them or more than one of them, they are manifested and they are termed as learning disability. So, the kinds of learning disability, it's an umbrella term which houses many difficulties, and these are the three major ones. There is dyslexia, which is what we are going to talk about today. There is dyscalculia, and there is dysgraphia. So, the word dys means difficulties in the Greek language. Lexia means words. So, a difficulty with words is dyslexia, which is difficulty in reading. Again, calculia means calculations, this being difficulty, So the word dyscalculia means difficulty in calculations. Graphia is to do with graphics, that is writing, that is the design, that could be alphabets of any kind of a language. A difficulty with writing is known as dysgraphia. So these are the three major ones, and we are majorly talking, or we are only talking, going to talk about dyslexia today. So, what is dyslexia? So, dyslexia is a difficulty in reading, wherein the reading is characterized by many letter and word reversals or faulty phoneme blending. Phoneme is the single sound in a word, and there is confusion amongst letters and words, and that results in poor reading comprehension. So, for anything that you read, take you are reading an essay, it contains paragraphs. Those paragraphs consists of sentences, sentences consists of phrases, phrases consists of words, words consists of syllables, and every syllable has a different kinds of phoneme in it. So you can imagine the process that it is. First, we need to know the phonemes. We combine them, blend them to get into a word. When many words combine, it becomes a phrase. When many phrases combine, it becomes a sentence. When many sentences combine, it becomes a paragraph. And when many paragraphs combine, therein you have an article or a chapter in a textbook. So think of it, the level of difficulty. A child who is finding phonemes difficult or any particular letter in phonics difficult, if it is seen as a reversal or if the sequence is not seen properly, then that becomes a confusion amongst the words. And when words are read faulty, like if dog was read as God, and the word sentence read is the God was waving his tail, the comprehension will be, what does God do? Does God have a tail? The word was dog. So the reading comprehension goes for a toss. Now, this is a definition, which is the highly most prevalent one. So, dyslexia is one specific learning disability that is neurological in origin. It is not the fault of the child. It is not the fault of the parent. It is not poor parenting. It is neurological in origin. It is characterized by difficulties with accurate and or it could be just accuracy that is difficult, or it is fluency also that is difficult, like word recognition, and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. So accuracy and fluency, these are two wings of a airplane. So if accuracy is not there, if fluency is there, one plane, one engine working, one wing working is not going to have a smooth ride for the passengers in the airplane. Okay. If if accuracy is there, but fluency is not there. So accuracy is there. So the child is reading very slowly or is reading very fast. So one wing is still working, the other wing of the airplane is not working, and still it will not be a very smooth ride. And imagine those children for whom the word recognition is also difficult, that is, decoding or reading each word is difficult, and the fluency is also not matching their age level, which means both the engines of the airplane are not functioning properly. And how will the ride be? These difficulties typically result from a deficit in the phonological component of the language that is often unexpected in relation to other cognitive abilities and the provision of effective classroom instruction. So, in spite of all the classroom instructions, and in spite of the child showing fluency or good work in all other cognitive skills, the child is still not able to do the phonological component well. So, that phonological component is not matching the intelligence or memory and all other cognitive skills which can be affecting the child. So, instructions are being given in a classroom, separate instructions are given, and yet the child is still having a difficulty. So, when this happens, the first primary consequence is that the child is not able to read properly. Secondary consequences of this fact that the child is not able to read will include problems in reading comprehensions. If I cannot read properly, how can I comprehend? And reduced reading experience. Now, if I'm struggling to read, why will I want to read unless it's made compulsory for me? That can impede the growth of vocabulary and background knowledge. So, when I read less, I have lesser knowledge on the vocabulary, and all other background knowledge goes for a toss. Now, percentage wise, dyslexia is one of those disabilities which research says 15% of the people are having this disability. And if we are considering any school or department or center having special education needs for learning disabilities, of the learning disabled children having learning disabilities, 80% of those children have dyslexia. So, this is a very major component, and reading is extremely important in life. And when a child has this, secondary consequences are lower self esteem, lower confidence, and avoidance, not wanting to come to school or not performing well in the exams. What are the causes of this? There is no proven research yet. Lot of research is happening in this field, but we for sure know through fMRIs that this is a neurological condition. Very often, this is genetic in nature. So, research of the previous generation, enough data is not available. But definitely, that much data is available to say that somebody in the family also had a similar difficulty, may not be exactly the same difficulty, but had a similar difficulty. So, in India, also, when we are talking to children, take for example, in the school that I'm teaching, when we question parents and all, very often it is the father or the mother who will say, oh, I also had this difficulty, I was also like this. And sometimes it is environmental. So the amount of toxins that are consumed when the person is pregnant, the mica, the lead, and all these other kind of chemicals that are consumed are also seeming to have an effect on the brain of the child, which then becomes neurological. So, once again, I will say it is not the fault of the child, and it is not the fault of faulty parenting. That I did not teach the child well, and so he cannot read. That is not true. Now, question is, who can have dyslexia? Any person can be affected with dyslexia, could be male or female. But the data shows that there are more males than females having dyslexia. People with dyslexia could be belonging to any kind of racial origin. It doesn't have to be any particular race or any particular caste or any particular religion, which shows maximum data of this kind. The person having dyslexia could be belonging to any socio-economic level. It is not something that a rich person whose parents have a lot of money, that child cannot have dyslexia, or a person who comes from a poor background cannot have it, or all those who have it are belonging to the middle class socioeconomic strata, or the lower income or the higher income. It can affect anybody, and also it could be any age group. The official formal diagnosis is only done after the age of 7. The symptoms are seen very early on, but it is only because it is a reading difficulty, it is only when the child starts reading, or the age at which the child is supposed to start reading, after that is the only formal diagnosis that can be done. But otherwise, these days, a lot of people who are adults are wanting to get into checking if they also have dyslexia. Now, how do you diagnose, or what are the symptoms that can be seen early on when we are saying? So, what are the characteristics as we say? So, in preschool, this is before the child starts reading, of course. In preschool, the child speaks later than most children. Speech is not developed at an age appropriate time. There are difficulties in pronouncing words. Say, um, for example, lips could be pronounced as lisp, something like that. There is slow vocabulary growth, and often the child is unable to find the right word. So this could be difficulty at any age group, but at preschool level also these symptoms can be seen, is what I'm trying to say. So the child could be thinking, I know the word, wait for me, I know the word, I will tell you. So the word is kind of, I know it, I just know it, but is not able to say it. There is a difficulty in rhyming words, like these word families that you have: cat, bat, sat, mat. So there is a difficulty in understanding those patterns. There is a trouble in learning numbers, in learning alphabets, the sequence of the alphabet, the sequence of the days of the week, or even the days of the week, in learning about colors and learning about shapes. So, this at preschool level, you are not expecting them to read the color. You're not writing PINK and asking the child to say, what is this? You are just showing something that's pink and asking the child to say pink. But there could be a difficulty with that also. Very often, there is extreme restlessness and distraction, and could be more because if I'm not understanding what's happening in the class, and if I'm not able to respond to what's happening or what is being asked for me, why should I be paying attention? Difficulty in following directions or even routines. So simple directions or multiple instructions are also a difficulty. At home, suppose it is, give me a glass of water, perhaps that could be understood. Give me a glass of water, but before that, can you switch on the light? So this becomes a multiple instruction that becomes difficult. And at a still higher level, this difficulty surfaces is like in Tare Zameen Par, the movie, the famous movie which showed learning disabilities, is about multiple instructions in a classroom that can you take out your English book, open chapter number so and so, look at paragraph number so and let us read from there. So these were multiple instructions that were given very fast. And when this happens, it's difficult for the child. And fine motor skills are very slow to develop. Fine motor skills are definitely needed before the child starts writing or drawing patterns or learning to write alphabets, but they are slow in developing. Now, a child in preschool does not have to have all of these symptoms that have been listed, but many of them could be present, and that should be ringing a bell. Do we need to check something a little more? We go on to the characteristics, which is at a still higher grade, that is kindergarten grade to grade 4. Now, this is the time where the letters are introduced. So, the child is slow to learn the connections between the letters of the sound. So, which letter and which sound gets connected? So, if I'm saying, which is the letter I'm supposed to write? If I'm saying the letter, if I'm showing the letter T, and if I'm asking, what is the sound of this letter T? So, the letter name is T, but the sound is not T. The sound is different from the letter name. The sound is T. So that becomes difficult sometimes to draw a connection. That the letter name is this and the letter sound is this, and these are the two that are connected. Also, there may be lesser difficulty in the consonant sounds, but the vowel sounds have major difficulties. Because very often the vowel sounds change. The same vowel, say the letter A, will have multiple sounds depending on where it is placed in the syllable. So, if you recall earlier, when I said that we have to read paragraphs, sentences, phrases, words, words, I said, are divided into syllables. And syllables will have the letters that need to be decoded. So, depending on where in the syllable is the letter A placed, the sound of the letter A will depend on that. So, drawing those connections become very difficult. So, the children at this level confuse basic words. So, they could read, uh, say the word bread. So the letters in that word are B, R, E, A, D, and it is sounding as bread. So that is a basic word which could be read as beard. So wherein the letters are B, E, A, R, D. So all the letters are same, but the sequencing of the letters is different. Beard and bread. Think about it. So, children make constant reading errors, which often lead to spelling errors, which include letter reversals like B and D are inverted, or M and W, or there are transpositions like felt and left. Again, in this example of felt and left, you will see that the letters are same. All the letters are same. F-E-L-T, and it is L-E-F-T. So the sequencing of the letters changing, and substitutions are there. For example, house is read as home. So the child can transpose number sequences like that and confuse arithmetic signs. The sign of plus could be misconstrued as multiplication, and similarly minus could be construed as division, division could be construed as minus, or something like that. They are slow to remember the facts. Take, for example, tables. Slow to learn new skills, and they rely on memory, and very impulsive in nature. So they have a difficulty in planning themselves. Pencil grasp is still not developed, which comes under fine motor skills, and they have difficulty in learning about time or the passage of time. So if you tell the child that you can play it down, but you come back in an hour, that 1 hour passage of time is not understood. There is poor coordination, sometimes physically, unaware of physical surroundings, and so the child becomes very prone to accidents. I would like to just give an example of somebody whom I met, was really intelligent, very good with all the cognitive skills, and an excellent driver. He's 25 years old. And he told me that he had not passed 10th standard, but he was super good with everything, reading the maps and driving, and he knew the locations. He could guide us culturally for everything. He could name the ingredients of the food and everything. And he said that till 10th grade he had changed 9 schools. And when I asked him what happened, he says in group he could do everything. He could memorize a certain amount of stuff, but he could never get around what was happening in class. So, one example that I asked him and he gave me was when the teachers would ask the tables. So, he said when the group was saying tables of two, he would be saying tables of two with them. So, the entire class was saying them. And one day the teacher noticed something, and the teacher singled him out, pulled him out, and the teacher asked him, "Can you recite the tables of two? Can you just tell us what it is?" And he felt very ashamed. And what he did was, and what was actually the reality is, he started with two ones are two, two twos are four, two, 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 two tens are 20. And therein, that was the end of it. Like I said earlier, the entire class laughed and the teachers yelled at him. And when he was questioned about this, he says, "I remember the tune, but I don't remember anything else." So remembering facts becomes difficult. But if you link those facts to perhaps like his strong point or his main intelligence would have been musical intelligence, if somebody had taken the care of combining these two things, perhaps this child would have done better. So all I'm saying is every child has their specialty in spite of the list of difficulties that they have. So if we kind of detect what and decide what are the specialities of the child, we will be able to help a child. Grade 5 to 8, reverse letter sequences. Now, previous difficulties still become higher level. So, soiled is read as solid, left and felt. I give you the example. Now, the words, the base words will, you need to learn prefixes to them, to the suffixes and the root words. And spelling strategies change based on whether you are adding a suffix to it or a prefix to it. So, wherein, like when run becomes running, you are adding the suffix ing, but the spelling strategy says that you need to double the last letter, and only then you can get the correct word, running. So that becomes difficult for the children. So what do? They avoid reading aloud. They have trouble with word problems because at this stage, calculations, the arithmetic things, that the number is given, say 50 minus 27 was being written earlier, and now it is written as a word problem, that there are 50 children in the class and sorry, 27 are absent today. How many children are present? So I first need to read the word problem. And if I have a difficulty in reading, I can't. Difficulty with handwriting. Of course, we've seen fine motor difficulties, awkward fist like grasp or tight grip when so much of pressure is put on the paper that the back side of the paper also has that imprint. So they avoid writing compositions because the more they write, there are more corrections that are there. They are slow in recalling facts, and all of this leads to secondary difficulties of having a difficulty in making friends, understanding their body language, facial expressions, and they become the jokers in the class. High school students and adults, they continue to spell incorrectly. They frequently spell the same word differently. On one page, if the same word is coming thrice, all three times you would have different spellings. They avoid reading and writing tasks. They have a trouble in summarizing because perhaps they've not read enough, not gathered enough, because then it comes as a frontal lobe activity where you need to organize the information that you've read. They have difficulty with open ended questions. There is weak memory. Adjusting to new schools is difficult, and work slowly. Abstract concepts become difficult because if I need a re explanation, I'm afraid to ask. If I need to reread myself, it is difficult reading. So they start paying too little attention or focus too much on some particular thing, and they misread information, which will give them faulty information, which is not good for their answers. So these are all difficulties that a child with dyslexia may face, but all of them may not be there in every child who is diagnosed with the difficulty of dyslexia. Dyslexia is many things like I'm talking about, but it definitely is not a gift. It is not contagious because it's not a disease. It is not that the child is being lazy or stupid or unmotivated. It is not that he or she doesn't want to work. It is not caused by bad parenting. It is not that it is found only in children. And also, it is not that it is found only in English language. Severity levels. It could be mild dyslexia, moderate dyslexia, or severe dyslexia. So, in mild dyslexia, difficulties are there, but you can compensate or work around them. And with the right accommodation and the support, the child can do extremely well. So, cognitive skills can be very high. So, contextual clues of not being able to read one particular word and maybe able to read the front part of the sentence, skip this word or misread this word, read the later part of the sentence and construe a meaning. Or a remedial educator gives some support, right examination supports are given, and the child can do well. Moderate difficulties, they're significant enough that you need specialized instructions. You need the help of a special educator. You may also need specific interventions or accommodations. You may need a reader, you may need a computer, something like that. And in severe difficulties, the difficulties are so pronounced that they continue to be a problem even after specialized interventions, all the accommodations that are given, and all of the forms of treatment that are given, that still may be a difficulty in passing through the exams or gaining knowledge. How does a teacher create dyslexia friendly classrooms? Is what I'm going to talk about now. You can post visual schedules on the walls and read them aloud. Instead of just writing that timetable where the child needs to write history, geography, science, I could have motifs. I could use colored bookmarks so students can focus on a line in the text. I can provide letter and number guides so the students know how to write correctly. Large prints can be made in case the fine print is causing difficulty. Use audio books and videos in the lesson plans. So maybe the moving pictures helps them gain knowledge while the audio is also talking and pictures are also moving. And on all computers now, you have text to speech software. So that can be used in classrooms. Some other things that can be done is you provide a laptop or a computer to a child who can have spell checks so that they can type their work instead of writing, canceling, writing, rewriting, canceling, erasing. Give these students with dyslexia extra time to do their tasks or classworks or homework. Give them extra time to read the text in the class. The text could be given to them in advance, let them have practice at home. So, and then in the class, when the child is reading that, give extra time so that he doesn't become, it doesn't become a mockery in the class where everybody starts laughing. You provide study buddies so that somebody sitting next to the child can be helping the child to read and write. Have multi-sensory tools in the classroom where flashcards are used, puppets are used, different voices are used, videos are used. So kinesthetic, auditory, visual, all together modalities being used is what will help the child with dyslexia. Process of assessment. First is to find the child who has a difficulty. Now, the reference could be made by the parent to the psychologist in the school or the special educator in the school, or a teacher can also make a reference. Grown up children who are still facing difficulty and not diagnosed are free to walk into the counselor and tell them, Miss, you had a workshop the other day, and I think I have all these difficulties. We need to take a look then. Screening is done through curriculum based assessments. These are teacher made tools. The teacher can just create a tool to make the child read some things. What the child is not able to do, take that at a lower level and at a still lower level, and then find out what is it exactly, where is it that the child is standing. Intervention can start accordingly. Whether the child is not able to read four syllable words, three syllable words, two syllable words, or even a single syllable word. So, accordingly, the person who is working with the child can start working with different reading strategies. Over a period of time, you need to measure the progress to see if the strategies with which you are teaching is working for the child or not, and the child is able to make some progress or not. And if the child is not able to do it, after interventions also, it is best to refer the child to a clinical psychologist or to a center or a government hospital to go in for psychoeducational evaluation, wherein they will check the IQ levels. There will be achievement tests to be done, which will give us gauge and give us a correct picture of the level of difficulties and the age at which the child is working. Now, if you send the child for diagnostic of this kind, this is called a formal diagnosis. If you send the child for a formal diagnosis, say at age 11 years and 2 months old, and if his reading level is at, say, 7 years and 1 month, you can see there is a lag of 4 years and 1 month. So, when there is a lag of that kind, that severity, how do you think the child will be able to read the classroom text? Will not be able to do. So therein the secondary issues will start. That I will start getting stomach aches, headaches. I will not want to go to school. I will start crying every morning. I will escape lessons wherein something has to be read or something has to be submitted. Now, learning to read, basically strategies that need to be used. Like we said, we want everybody to comprehend. You don't want the child, say, being given. There was a child who was given some homework to read 2 books or 3 books, story books during the vacation. The child comes back and tells you, I read the books. When questioned, he gives the names of the books. Who are the authors? Gives the name of the authors also. What did you read about it? He says, I don't know. What was the story about? He says, I don't know. He says, if you don't know, what did you read? He says, I did read. Now, the question is, that reading is not called reading. That is called decoding. He could decode the words, but he did not comprehend. So, the highest level at the top of the pyramid for reading is comprehension. There is no sense in reading anything if you are not able to comprehend. When you are reading a word and you're not comprehending, in earlier times, you used to open the dictionary. Now, dictionary is also a skill that needs to be taught to these children. Where do you find this word in the dictionary? Dictionaries are so fat. Okay, where does the child find this word? That skill also needs to be taught, because sometimes that sequence of the letters of A to Z is also a difficulty. Now, opening the dictionary, they have to find out the meaning. These days, those things have become much simpler because they Google search or they go into an audio mode. What is the meaning of this word? And, some speaker, some auntie or uncle talks to them and gives them the word. So, the highest skill in reading that is expected is comprehending. Now, comprehension is going to depend on whether you've understood the words or not, whether you know the vocabulary or not. Now, vocabulary, when you are reading, vocabulary, if it is not known, if you're reading, say, one sentence, and in that one sentence, if there are 2 words that are not known, you're stopping twice to take a look at the vocabulary or learn the vocabulary to comprehend. Comprehension is going to be affected because the whole process of reading the sentence becomes very slow. So vocabulary has to be known at a certain fluency. So, or once you've found out the meanings of those 2 words, the child is expected to reread the sentence then. But very often, when there is a difficulty with reading, it's a task to read. Why will that child want to read again and reread again? The child will think, you told me to read, and I read it. Time and period. Now, the fluency will depend on whether you know your phonics or not, whether you know that a word has got these letters, that is the phonic part, these letters make this sound. So word has to be decoded. So if the word is fantastic, I need to decode that 9-letter word into fantastic. That becomes 3 syllables. And then I need to read one syllable at a time. And reading one syllable at a time, if I do not have the fluency of reading fan as fan, and if I'm still doing a, fan, and then I'm going to the second syllable, as, tas. Have I forgotten what was the previous syllable? Am I able to recall? Am I able to join fantas? And then I have still one more syllable to read. So that syllable, t, I, see. Do I say k or do I say s? What? Then I need to know the rules of phonics. Ah, okay. It's the last letter in that syllable. It doesn't have CK. Can it be k still? No. Will it be s as in mice? MICE, mice? If my fluency is not there, I am fumbling. I am struggling to connect. Eventually, when I am able to decode, I will say ik, tik. So, what are the first syllables? Fan, tas, tick. Now I have 3. Can I combine them? Now, do I combine them as fan, tick, tas? Or do I combine them as fantastic? Then read fantastic. Now, I decoded that. Do I know the meaning of the word fantastic? If I don't know the meaning of the word, vocabulary is not known. So I need to have a stop to fluid. So these are the ways that teaching has to go. And everything before the letter and the sound connect has come. That is the phonics. Before I can decode the word that I'm seeing, there is this process called phonemic awareness, which many schools and many preschools miss. This is the stage where phonemic awareness is every phoneme has got a sound, and that sound needs to be known. For that sound to be known, the letters A, B, C, D do not need to be known. So if I'm just saying, take for example, um, vocab comprehension. Let's take the word comprehension. If I'm just telling a word who can't read, I mean, this is before the stage of reading. If I'm asking you comprehension, what do you hear? The child will say comprehension. Can you tell me slowly what do you hear? The child will say comprehension. Automatically, the child has divided this into 4 syllables. So if I'm trying the child, say fantastic, the child will say fantastic. And if I'm saying, let's clap to fantastic, fantastic, that automatically becomes 3 syllables. So we have anaga here. So let's clap to anaga. Anaga. So that's 3 syllables. Let's clap to my name, Geeta. Geeta. That's 2 syllables. So for that, I do not need to know the letters. So this is the stage that comes before the alphabets are taught. So if I'm saying a seminar is going on, and ask the child to repeat, a seminar is going on. Let's clap to the words. A seminar is going on. We are exercising memory. The dog is good. I am a good child. Is the child able to repeat? Is the child able to listen? Is the child able to speak? Is the child able to count? You don't need to read 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't need numbers. Am I able to even clap? So that is phonemic awareness. So when a person is doing remedial work, remediation first has to start with phonemic awareness. Only then, phonemic awareness is only the sound system. And then comes the stage of phonics, and phonics is the letter with the sound. So herein, the letter B will say B, the letter C can say this or that. There are two sounds, dicey. Letter D, only one sound, that way. Second thing is, when you have got into phonics and letter sounds, you will be able to read some words, like here it is written CVC words. So if you have done the phonics of the letter I and the letter T, and maybe the letter, so you can say VC word, it, then that can become CVC word. C is the consonant, the vowel, and the consonant. So it, sit. Now then comes in C, C, V, C. So sit could become S, L, I, T, slit. So there are two consonants, and there is a vowel, and there is a consonant again. So that way it has to increase. And final stage in that, for one syllable word, is you have two consonants in the beginning, you have two consonants in the end, and you have one vowel. So take for example the word blend. B, L, E, N, D. So BL is two consonants, E is one consonant, N and D are two consonants. So that becomes the word blend. After that, it becomes two syllable words. So one syllable words will follow that process. Now, while this process of teaching is happening, one also needs to get into sight words. Said, the, these are sight words. They do not follow the rule of phonics. So when they do not follow the rule of phonics, they learn to be memorized. So showing them again and again. And believe me when I tell you, 45 to 50% of the words in any text are sight words. So if all the sight words, which are memorization, are run at a certain fluency, half the text you will be able to read. The other half you need to teach. Then comes the vocabulary, like I told you, the meanings of the words, then only the phrases and the sentences can happen. And when sentence reading happens, then comes in the comprehension. Now, comprehension is also at three-stage levels, depending on the age of the child and the expectation from the text and the age and the intelligence of the child. There is the literal level, there is the inferential level, and there is the critical level. So, literal level are the WH questions. What is this passage about? Okay. Where did this incident happen? When did it happen? So the answers are all in the text. So the child has to literally be able to read the text, comprehend the question, select the answer, and perhaps copy paste half the answer. Second stage is the inferential stage. The text was saying, there was a stranger who entered the compound. The dog started barking. Okay. And if the text is asking the question, why do you think the dog started barking? It's not written in black and white. That has to be inferred by the child, who has to understand that this was a stranger who entered the compound. The dog does not perhaps like strangers, and that is the reason why the dog started barking. Now, this is not written in the text. So the child has to infer the answer. That inference will again happen only if the vocabulary is known to the child. So vocabulary becomes a very important part, but only after the child is able to read all the words. After that inferential part is happening, then third level, which is 8th standard, 9th standard, 10th standard child, is getting into the critical part of it. Can you critically analyze the poem? Why do you think the author mentioned this? What should have been the ending of the story instead of this? So you need to critically analyze, which needs higher order thinkings. But honestly, at the school level, even if the child is able to do the literal level and the inferential level, the child will be able to still do fairly well from the examination point of view. Now, this is a very famous quote. And this is, the children are learning differently. They need a multisensory approach to teaching. They need perhaps a small group teaching. They need maybe one on one teaching. And that child is asking you, if I can't learn the way you teach in a general class of 30 or 40 or 50, I don't know how many children are there in your classes. If the child is saying, if I can't learn the way you teach, will you teach me the way I can learn? It's a plea from the child because the child wants to learn. The child is interested in learning. And if we can give correct, timely help, because these children are cognitively bright, they can go a very long way. If we can catch their difficulty, we can remedy their difficulty, and we can help the child. Now, think of the lines which are so powerful. If I can't learn the way you teach, will you teach me the way I can learn? Now, school is a place which should be interesting for a child, and every child should be happy to go to school. But if the teachers are yelling at the child, if the parents are shouting at the child for non performance in academics, and if the children of the classmates are making a mockery of the child, that school does not become a happy place for the child. Jiddu Krishnamurti, a very famous philosopher who's got many schools, he has said, a school, after all, is a place where the child is happy and he's not bullied. He's not frightened of examinations. He is not compelled to act according to a pattern. Because herein, we may have a child who is not able to follow the general stream pattern. According to Krishnamurti ji, school is a place where the art of learning is taught. How do you learn? That has to be taught. And that the art of learning is actually the art of living. Because we want every person to take into themselves, enjoy learning, the process of learning, which should become your life. It should become the art of living, that you can be a lifelong learner. But if you're bullied at school, if you're harassed at school, if you're not able to perform at school, you become discontented, you become disillusioned, you become depressed, and you don't enjoy schooling. So then you don't enjoy learning. And then the whole process of continuing to learn something or the other that is new in your life doesn't happen. Every child has got their own strengths. This is a very, very famous slide from Shally Shevitz, who is a very big proponent and a reading expert. And she says that every child with dyslexia also has got so many strengths. So that child could be a problem solver. You talk, you explain. The child is not reading well, but you talk and he understands. You read to the child, he understands. His imagination flows. So his imagination does not have to stop because he cannot read. If he can read to the child, in the examination, the child could have a reader, his creativity can flow. He can be excellent in so many other skills. He could be an artist, he could be an actor, he could be a theater person. I mean, he could be a footballer, he could be an entrepreneur. He has curiosity. You answer all his questions. Don't just tell the child, you go and find the answer yourself. When he's going to try to find the answer from the books, he's finding it. But if he's not able to read it, what happens? So, All of these things, they have high listening comprehension skills. If we are explaining, auditory skills are good. It's the visual skill of reading which is not good. So we have to have that patience to teach the child who has got immense amount of strengths. We need to work on the strengths of the child, not neglect the strengths while we are working on the deficit that the child has. So while we are trying to uplift the areas which the child is not able to perform well in, we don't leave the strengths there. We continue to work on the strengths also. And that way, one step at a time, the child's confidence remains, the child becomes a happy go lucky person. And in the end, whether he can read at par with the classmates or he cannot read at par with the classmate, he still is a confident child who faces the world. He learns through different modalities of audio textbooks, visuals, on television, YouTubes. He still learns. Okay, that's about me. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And we have covered an hour of talking, and I was told to have the presentation for an hour and then take your questions. I would be happy to take your questions now. If you wish me to close the presentation, or if you wish to see any particular slide again, I can go on to it. Over to you, somebody from the team.
Yes, Anaga, you want to take it further? Anybody, you can unmute and talk to the presenter, or you can write in the chat box as well.
Should I close the presentation, ma'am, or should I leave it on?
Yes, I think we can close the presentation. So,
Okay. Just in case anybody needs to contact me later, you can have the contact detail. The email is there and the telephone number is there. You can just take a note of that and then I can just close the presentation. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Thank you very much.
We will just take up a question, a query
Sure.
they have
Sure,
posted
ma'am.
in the chat box. So
Okay.
the query is, are there schools which have a separate curriculum for children with dyslexia in Karnataka? So yes, ma'am, you have been talking about school accommodation, definitely.
Yes.
So are there any curriculum-based changes that can be done or provided for our children in the country?
Okay. Definitely. So, curriculum wise, at a lower level, the curriculums can be modified to accommodate the child. And when he has that capacity, while we are doing the remedial work, so when you have the capacity is built to be able to read and write, the child will be able to follow any curriculum. Okay. But still, every board in India and abroad has got accommodation for these children. So if in the end, in the 9th standard, 10th standard level, if the child is not able to read properly or write properly or has difficulty in calculations, the board does give, if you have the proper paperwork and the proper testing done, every board does give the child calculators, readers, writers, or they ask allow them to write on a computer and things like that. There are marks which are not deducted for spelling, or there are marks which are not deducted for sentence structure, depending on what the difficulty is found in the end. But remediation and diagnosing should definitely be done at an earlier stage so that we can help the children be able to do as much as they can properly.
I
Hope
think
that answers your
the
question.
question of schools having them, according to law, it is mandatory, but it
Absolutely.
is difficult to find the right place and the right special educators in schools. So it's all about exploring and seeing the schools around you and then making a choice.
Yes. Many schools are very friendly and they do employ the correct people that is necessary. A school should have definitely mandatory by the government to have a counselor who can work on the social and behavioral needs of the child, and a special educator who will work on the academic skills of the child. Any other question?
Um, yes, ma'am. There is one more. They are
Yes.
curious to know if there is a spectrum of dyslexia. They want to know if it is a difficulty or it can be a disability.
So it is a disability according, if it is diagnosed according to the mandate which is given in DSM-5. DSM-5 is the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual that we follow, and it is listed as one of. So there are 21 disabilities that India has declared, and this is one of the disabilities. So the disability is specific learning disability under which there are many of them, and dyslexia being one of them.
So I think they're asking whether there's a grade to it, whether it's something
Grade as in mild,
like,
moderate, or severe. So accommodations are given to whether it is mild or moderate or severe. So will the child be able to write themselves or not? Will the child be able to read if you're given extra time? Will the child still manage to be able to read the question papers or not? But if not, then they will provide a reader for the child. So if it is severe, so that depends on the scores, because ultimately whatever we know is in general, but only when a proper diagnostic assessment is done by a clinical psychologist, you will get to know the statistics of it as to how much of the gap is there. Like I gave an example, if the child is, say, 11 years and 2 months old, and if the child is working at a certain level, what is the gap in reading? Accordingly, that is the level of difficulty that will decide what are the accommodations that need to be given.
Right. Ma'am, there is one more question. Uh,
Sure.
they want to know if there is any assessment or tool in a simple form to identify dyslexia.
So there are, yes, definitely there are plenty of checklists that are available, and there are plenty of informal tests that are available, which teachers can do. Teacher made tools are also there. I mean, the teacher could pick up things from their own text, or like I said, a lower text or a still lower text, to find out at what stage the child is stuck. So maybe a grade 3 teacher is finding that the child is not coping up. She can check on her level and she's finding it difficult. She could check with second standard level. She could check with grade 1 level. She could check with senior KG level. So these are teacher made stuff. So, like that, there are things which are there for phonemic awareness, phonics, all those things also. Like there are plenty of tests like that, which are informal assessments. But formal assessments can only be done by proper qualified people, which is clinical psychologists.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope that answered the question. The next query here is, my 10 years old CP child not able to write and read. Is there any instrument to write?
So CP means there is a different kind of a disability. It is a consultation which is different depending on the fine motor capability of the child. How do you modify the writing instrument, and whether the child will still be able to write themselves or not? So, take for example, for one CP child, I remember at one point we had modified that pen by adding sponge and layers of sponge with rubber bands to make it such a thick instrument, because the child was not able to go to the pincer grasp. Now, CP is a different kind of a diagnosis. Somebody else will have to do it. What is the difficulty, whether the wrist movement is there, finger movement is there or not. So if the child is able to talk and still having a difficulty in writing, the CP child could easily get the benefit of a writer wherein he dictates and somebody else writes the paper. Or if the CP child is able to work with pressing the buttons, the keys on the computer, that could also be possible.
I think a lot of modifications can be made. It
Yes,
is all
lot of
about
modification.
using your mind and looking at the strengths of the child. So it could be
Absolutely.
like in the tab, you can even use a finger to do things or type. Even the keyboard comes with modifications that can be used. So it's all about the individual child and modifications that it comes with.
Also, there is speech to text tool. The child is
Correct.
talking and the computer is writing. So each special child is special. Their
Correct.
needs will be special, and accommodations and working with the child will have to be special. So studying the child study as we call it, is extremely important, because while we are just talking about the weakness of the child, we still need to understand what are the strengths of the child. And like Ma'am Gauri Ma'am said, that how do we take that strength forward?
I think best example is Stephen Hawkins, how he kind of spoke.
Absolutely, yes, brilliant mind.
So the
So
mind
here
is
also,
intact, so it is
yes,
not.
absolutely, yeah.
I'll
Right.
just read
Thank you,
out
ma'am.
a couple of comments from YouTube.
Sure, sure.
So, special education is just coming up nowadays, and not all schools are aware of how different a special educator is from other teachers. In fact, they are not valued too much. So, the education system needs to implement a lot of things for assessing and going ahead with it.
I totally agree with it. In
Yes,
cities, the scene is really good, like Bangalore, Chennai,
it is
Bombay,
not,
Nagpur,
ma'am.
Delhi. No? Okay.
It is a
But
pain
here,
point for a lot of us because things are some overdo it. LKG, UKG, they say they're not using cursive writing and they refer, and some children come quite late on.
so difference between educator and special educator is in the basic degree, because general stream teachers are doing content teaching, that is, they're doing B.Ed in subjects. We do B.Ed in skills, the skills of reading, the skills of writing, the skills of speaking, listening. So any child needs both the things. You need content which changes every year. Grade 1 content or lower KG content is different, grade 5 content is different, grade 8 content is different. But skills, there is only an enhancement in that. At junior KG level, you are learning to write the alphabets. Those at, if you've learned that, the skill is based on that, that you can form the words and write the letters. Now, whether it's print or cursive is a totally different ball game. But if the skill of writing is developed, that means, which is dependent also on your grasp. If the grasp is developed and the holding of the in writing instrument is correct, you will be able to write. Now, if that is not formulated at a certain age, that is the skill. So, the skill of punctuation. So, at grade 1, you need only full stop and capitalization. Then the comma is introduced. But if you've not learned when to use a full stop and when to use a capitalization, how is a comma going to be useful? So, the content changes every year. The chapter is on dog this year, the chapter is on a picnic next year, and the chapters change according to your age. So those, that is the content. And tuition teachers go only for content, they don't go in for skills. A special educator will take you back as to where did you get stuck. If you don't know, like I said, fantastic word, do you, can you first read fan? Now, if fan is not read, which means CVC word is not done, CVC is done at senior KG level. So, if you are stuck at senior KG level, a special educator will take you up from there and build on those skills. So, they don't do the content. You may be in grade 5, but you may be at a senior KG level in reading. So, if I'm going to teach just grade 5 level and grade 5 words, how will the child be able to cope up? So, they're in the mismatch between the two things.
Yeah.
Right. True, ma'am. Can we move to the next question?
Go ahead.
Um, so I'm guessing they have posted this after a diagnosis. So they want to know
Okay.
how are they progressing in the right direction.
So we generally ask if the formal diagnosis is already done. Uh, just give me a second.
Sure, ma'am.
If the formal diagnosis is already done, the remedies would be suggested, the recommendations would be given in the formal diagnostic report. So the child needs to be taught according to the recommendations that are given that should be on the right track. And after some period of time, say after a year or 2 years, if you do the formal diagnosis, only the achievement part again, you will see whether the shift is done. Like we were talking about 11.1-year-old, and we were saying that the spellings are at 7 years and 2 months. Now, automatically, say after 1 year, the child becomes chronologically, there's no stopping. So the child becomes 12.1. Automatically, the child's progress for spelling should be from 7.2 to 8.2. But if in that achievement test, it is showing 8.9, which means we have progressed somewhere. But if it is showing lesser than 8.2, which means our strategies are not working because that gap has widened. That gap that was there between 7.2 and 11.1, which should have been reduced, has widened. So that means those strategies are not. Now, whenever a person is giving you strategies, also, they are trying their level best to give you specific strategies based on the scores of the child. But yet, we have to always remember to keep checking for ourselves what is working for the child and what is not working for the child. Because every special child is special.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Well,
So one of the audience have just shared their thought. Will the
yes.
children with dyslexia unnoticed in regular schools? Will the child be self-personalized in course of schooling years?
So they do manage, many of them, if their intelligence is very good, they will manage perhaps, and many of them do also, but in the process, they are always struggling. So if we can catch them and if we can help them at the right time, send them to correct people. If the parent cannot help, find the right special educators, or if the teachers can also give a little bit of a push and a help and guide the parents, that is the best way to do it instead of just waiting. Because, like I said, in the waiting process, what happens is the child loses interest. The pseudo stomach aches, headaches start, not wanting to go to school, less confidence. And then, when the confidence reduces, the strengths of the child also show a shift. Because I'm very good at this, but I've lost my confidence. So I'm very good at elocution, but I've lost confidence. How will I face the public on the stage? I'm very good at dancing, but people are pointing out so much on my academics. Children are laughing so much. Teachers and parents are shouting at me so much that it breaks my heart every day and it breaks my soul, and I'm losing everything. That my dance skills also go for a toss.
So that is a very important point where it is not just the physical inability, the way it psychologically affects a child, a family is huge because
Yes,
lot of challenges are just overcome by just your confidence in knowing this is not the end of it. I think that is very important.
yes,
Because the more confident you are, you're able to face whatever comes. So,
yes,
knowing how to overcome, because as Miss Geeta said earlier, everything cannot be overcome. None of us are perfect, but we are trying to get them to the maximum level. And even if not, there are ways in which you can still write, read. There's a lot of technology now. So, it is not the end of the world, is something important. Everybody should know.
absolutely. And it definitely affects the family. So, family relations should not get spoiled because of this. There shouldn't be quarrels in the house, especially between parents, to say you are not looking after the child, or you did this and you did that. This is not the blame game. This is neurobiological in origin, so it is not a blame game.
So,
And the
guilt and
solution is only remediation. teaching the child the child is asking, if I'm not learning the way you teach me, will you teach me the way I can learn? That's it. There is no syrup or no medicine that can just, you pop into the mouth medicine every day and it's cured. It's not like that. And believe me, all the children can be successful if it helped at the right time. There is no need for anybody to get into anxiety, depression, phobia of school, or anything like that. It's not warranted. So if it is happening, that means we are failing the system somewhere and we are failing a child as adults, as parents or teachers or as professionals.
I think our education system has changed so much. It is all about marks and academics and
Yes.
reading tuitions.
Yeah, it's a big round of running around from here, there, everywhere, seeking people. It's kind of shopping. Okay, in 1 month, the child didn't make progress with this teacher. I changed my school. I changed my school. I changed my. Like I give you the example of Tashi. He changed 9 schools in 10 years. And ultimately, he didn't even pass grade 10. But if somebody in those days, of course, was far back in Sikkim where perhaps the help was not available, there were no professionals. But I think some good needs to come by being aware, by reading, holding webinars like this, holding seminars, getting people to learn themselves. Parents can be the best advocates. If you learn the skills, you can definitely teach your child.
So, based on that, I think a couple of them are asking, are there any courses or resources from where they can get more information on this?
So there will be plenty of books available, ma'am, but it is best to learn from somebody, because this needs to be a practical skill. Even the phonic sound system, like I'm saying, most of the schools will use the sound, say the letter T as T. So when you say T, you are sounding it out from here. This is moving. Just take a look. I mean, I'm coming closer to you. T, T. But that's incorrect, because that is sounding as TUH. It's not that. This has to be a sound which is where the vocal cord is not used. So it's that way. So if you're learning from somebody, it is best. So there are many diplomas, certificate courses, and also B.Ed courses which are available. But books wise, or even rules for spelling of wise, if you press the rules of spelling, like I gave the example of run and running, you know, like if you write the word RUNING, you get wrong. You are supposed to write RUNNING. Very often, when a child or a parent is asking an English teacher also, why like this, they are not able to answer. Okay. So the word fill, for example, fill the glass with water. How do you spell it? Put in the chat box. Somebody just put in the chat box. My chat box is open. Or everyone. Okay, I get one response. There could be more responses. Now, whoever has written, I think Gauri ma'am has written, could you write the word filter here? Could you tell
Actually,
me why you wrote
we have
FIL?
autocorrect here while we are typing.
Oh, okay.
It
So why
promises.
is it that you need FILTER and not FILLTER? When I'm breaking the word filter into syllables, I'm still sounding filter. Correct? So why am I not writing FILLTER? Now, who will explain that to the child? First, I need to know the explanation myself. Now, when I'm writing T, okay, ter. So sounds are T. Like I said, T, okay. Why TER? And why in bird, B? D. I'm writing IR. Why in doctor? How do I spell doctor? Just write it down. Okay? So, what are the syllables? Doctor. So, that
TR.
why is it OR? Why is dock? The ship will dock at the harbor. Okay? How do you write that dock?
Yes.
And why in doctor you are writing DOC? So it is not so simple. 60% or 70%, 65, 70% of the English is following all rules. But even if we master that many rules, life will be so much easier.
Yes, good.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Correct.
Any other questions?
So, one thing is about the what accommodations that can be given for such children in the exams. So, when is
Yes.
the right time to get assessment and getting to the system? At what levels are these provided?
So it depends on school to school, but formal diagnosis, like I said, can be made after the age of 7. Okay. And then in good schools will give, see, good schools actually don't start exams before third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade also. Krishnamurti schools don't even start till ninth grade. Okay. So depends. But in examination, these accommodations can be given. The formal diagnosis should be there. That is a reader writer types I'm saying. Okay. But accommodation of giving a little extra time to the child, not pulling the paper of the child, these can be done in house. You don't need any extra effort in that. If you have 1 hour paper and you give a particular child who you know is going to in the end receive 25% extra time, you allow that child 15 minutes extra, it's okay. But when you have to provide readers, writers for exams and all, the school should be having that provision, because you need separate rooms, you need separate invigilation. Somebody has to sit and read the paper, somebody has to write the paper. And of course, whatever board your child is, whether it is ICSE, CBSE, IGCSE, IB, whatever they are doing, eventually in the ninth grade, before ninth grade, the formal diagnosis should definitely come in. So in the ninth grade, when you are registering the child for the formal exams, that is the time you fill in the form for special needs also, and get the accommodations that the child will require for their final board 10th standard exams. So then the practice can be given. Even if you get a writer, or say you get right answer the exams on computer, you need the typing practice. Even if you're getting a writer, you need that practice, that I speak and you write. So you and I have to be in sync. If I'm speaking too slow, are you able to write? If I'm speaking too fast, are you able to write? So that has to match. So practice is required even after accommodations are received.
Correct. And these kind of recommendations, is there any particular qualification the assessor need to have?
Clinical psychology, ma'am.
Okay. It doesn't have to be a RCA recognized, right?
Generally, yes, RCI recognized only,
Okay.
because only those people do it. Others will do informal assessment, teacher made tools.
Okay. So something to remember is start early, even for these things. Getting to go see a person and getting these assessments, getting reports, what to be done is a long process. It cannot happen in a day or two. So start early and get things in place so everything can run smoothly.
Early intervention is best. If we start remedial work early on and accept that my child has a difficulty, first is that step. So we are always taught that the parents also go through 5 stages before they accept that my child has a difficulty. It's always denial in the beginning. Then it is a quarrel with whoever points out. In my school, I have people who stop talking to me for a few months because I point out something. Parent cannot accept. Okay. So then there is negotiation with Bhagwan. I will offer you this many coconuts. Can this difficulty be resolved? Then there are rounds of doctors for pills and medicines. Some brain vita syrup and something like that, and some homeopathy, but these are not things that resolve dyslexia.
So over
So,
here, point is it is about the way the brain is functioning. If
yes,
you have to learn, you have to do. So it's about how you
yes.
do it and how you learn. There is nothing else that can treat this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Remediation is the only solution. Whether you go in for diagnosis or you don't, the moment you find that the child is struggling, you need to start teaching him in a specific manner that he will gain. The child is asking, can you teach me in the way that I can learn? My
Correct.
wiring is different. So, can you teach me in that way? That's it.
Sure. So, Anaga, I think we can close
So,
this off.
somebody has written here, Makrandan, that English is indeed a challenging language. So it definitely is, because in English, every sound is not having a letter. Unlike, say, Gujarati or Hindi, I know, or Bengali, these are the languages that I know. I do not know any of the languages from South, but for every sound that we speak, there is a particular kind of a matra. There is a particular symbol. So in English, that is not there. Like I said, the letter A itself will have so many different kinds of pronunciation in it.
Correct.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay,
Welcome.
without wasting much time, as we have come to the end of the event, I take this opportunity to thank Ms. Geeta Dalal for enriching us with reliable information regarding dyslexia, helping us understanding the obstacles of dyslexic individuals, school accommodations, managing it, and on the whole to decode it. The weather is cold and cozy here. Anybody would have want to just rest after a long day. Each one of you present this evening have been such a sport with lot of enthusiasm and curiosity to learn about dyslexia. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. I thank all the individuals who kept their hesitations aside and vocalized their queries here for all, making it an interactive event. Thank you. I thank our team who have worked really hard planning, arranging, and organizing this event. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone who has participated, and team at Brainchild Trust for
Thank,
inviting me. If there are any queries later on, also, you can send them to me.
thank you
Okay.
very much,
Thank
ma'am,
you very
for
much.
accepting
Welcome.
doing this. Thank you, everyone. We will
Welcome. Bye. Bye,
end
ma'am.
this
Happy
session.
to meet
Bye.
you.
Bye.